The first question we always get asked is this session being recorded? It is being recorded, so watch what you say. I'll try to watch what I say as well for the future here as well. My email address is on the screen right now, bknight@Pragmatic Works. And based on the survey results, why we ask these questions is it helps us kind of figure out where to kind of target the session. Most of you guys said you're a beginner or had no experience in PowerApps, so we'll add a few extra elements that shall help you kind of build your first app up. And then it looks like most of you guys also have experience with Power BI, so we'll kind of show some existing Power BI reports around that. So my Twitter handle is @BrianKnight. I was SQL Server MVP for many years. I'm the founder of Pragmatic Works, and I've authored a number of SQL Server books and Power BI books all around data in particular. I blog at pragmaticworks.com, and you can also find our our YouTube feed at Pragmatic Works as well. And there's about 40 videos on PowerApps and hundreds and hundreds of videos on Power BI also there. So if you are interested in going from beginner to more advanced level, then that's a great way to start. And we also have training around PowerApps as well. Well, because the session is being recorded, my HR department asked me to not say a few things, so I have to make sure I list a few things I'm not allowed to talk about. So just so you know, if you don't ask me any questions about the Lions or any of my issues I've had in certain states. So let's begin. So on the Power Platform, Power BI and PowerApps, of course, are part of the Power BI platform, and they all hold hands and work well together. So PowerApps is going to be our tool to build internal applications for your team. Now, as of this month, they are starting to release and preview also where you can build PowerApps for external customers, meaning that you could be a state and local government, for example, and if you want to build an app to handle fishing permits, you can absolutely do that and expose that to your external citizens. Now that's brand new, it's not released yet, but later this month it will be released. But right now, PowerApps is really meant for internal applications for your internal domain. Now, so we'll build applications that are multi-platform there, and then we'll release them, and then we'll get insights from that with Power BI. That's where Power BI's role is in here. And then lastly, we'll use Flow to build workflows and orchestrate automation around our enterprise. Now, all these tools are already enterprise grade. They are used by millions and millions of companies, and they have things like data governance all built into it as well. Now, on the Power App side, as I mentioned before, when you build these applications, it has things like row-level security and role-based authentication all built into it. And there's two ways of building apps. We're going to cover something called a Canvas application today. And Canvas applications are where you have pixel perfect control of that application. Now, with that, you can build this, and when you hit the publish button, it's going to work on a phone device, on a tablet, on a as well as web page and Dynamics and then SharePoint and so on and so on. Now, just because I say it's a phone application doesn't mean it's just a web page. This is actually a native application called the PowerApps application, and it gives you an internal company store that you can use to then peruse your different applications for your company. So PowerApps is pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's one of the most fun I've had in years has been doing PowerApps development. Now, with PowerApps and Flow and all these, you can connect with hundreds of different cloud providers, flat files, databases. On the PowerApps side, there's about 230 connectors, and PowerApps and Microsoft Flow share the list of connectivity. So the minute it's available on Flow, it also becomes available in PowerApps also. They also have added recently things like AI integration, so you can actually look at images and do things like computer vision, or look at a business card or an invoice, a PDF, and pull pieces out of the PDF that are invoices and all those kind of things. So lots of cool stuff they've integrated in that actually helps your Power BI as well. On the Flow side, you'll use this to kind of build workflow processes. So in other words, you can say, hey, I want to build an application to do a time card, and when I hit submit on that time card, if that time card is above a certain amount of hours, maybe I want to have that approved by the business owner also. So those kind of expense reports are those kind of things are all available inside of Flow. So things approvals or waiting for a file to appear in a directory, all that can be done with Microsoft Flow. And then lastly, we mentioned Power BI. With Power BI, we can build these reports and dashboards and have it cross multiple spectrums here as well. Now, most of you guys are already Power BI developers, are at least know the concepts of Power BI, so we won't cover too much about Power BI other than our demo. Our demo is going to be heavily Power BI related. Now, the question often comes in is how we get all these things to kind of work together. Well, you can integrate Power BI into PowerApps, and this is done with on the insert ribbon. You'll find under insert, you'll see controls, and then the Power BI tile. So the BI inside the PowerApps is just basic charting and group bys and those kind of things. And it's a little bit lacking. That's where Power BI really adds a lot of enhancements into PowerApps. So if you can add those Power BI tiles into your application, it makes your application look a lot more refined. This is actually a screenshot of the application we'll be building today. So this is a simple application in this case. So easy to go that direction, just simple as just insert, controls, and Power BI tile. Now the other way around answers a lot of things that Power BI can't do today. If you want to build Power Apps into your Power BI, it's making your data actionable. So in other words, let's imagine, for example, you're looking at a report for budgets, and you recognize that, hey, this number on this forecast is no longer correct. You can build a Power App that can write back to the underlying data source, and then ultimately then change that data source and reflect that on a report. So if you have things like doing write-backs, where the static report is interesting, but I want to be able to change a number. If you want to change that number, PowerApps is a great way of doing it. It's also a way of doing like, hey, I have all this automated data coming in. I want to enter some manual data into this as well. That works as well. Now, one thing that's cool about this is as I click on the bars, like Power BI in general, that filter gets applied to the Power App as well. So those things all work and all interact together. Now, this is all done with a custom visual called the Power App Custom Visual, which is free. It's in preview mode, but it's been very stable. I've been using it for over a year at this point. Now, one of the key things you want to look at as well, they just released this, I think around the February timeframe, is whenever you enter data into Power Apps inside of a Power BI report, you want to put an extra line of code into your Power Apps. It's Power BI interactions.refresh. If you do that, and a big gotcha here, and you have a direct query report, then it will automatically refresh your report, and you'll see the graphs and the charts and all the timing all reflect live on that report. So it'll refresh automatically. If you don't do that, no worries. Next time you refresh your data set, it will also refresh your data course as well. So that line of code is not required unless you want to see the interactions of that app move the numbers and needles live in your report as well. Okay, well, that's enough slides for today. We are going to show you an end-to-end demo, and this is the picture you're seeing on the screen is exactly what we're going to try to show today. So I have a new restaurant called Chez Brian, and it's such a popular restaurant that we have a concierge up front who wants to take names of people as they wait in line like this and let them in. So that's what we want to do. We want to build a restaurant waiting list. And then as part of that, we want to integrate some reports into that app. And then on the other side, we want to build reports to find out how long can I make people wait in this line before they drop out of the line and quit and abandon the cart, basically. So that's going to be in the Power BI report. In the Power BI report, also, we're going to integrate an application to ultimately enter some manual data that I may have missed also. So that's kind of the bi-directional application we're going to build. We'll have an app, and because there's not a whole lot of people that know Power Apps, I thought I'd start there and just kind of build a really basic application for a few minutes here and show you how that interaction is going to work. So to start with, I'm going to go to make.powerapps.com, or you can just go to powerapps.com. And once we do that, I'm going to create a brand new application. Okay. Now, while this is opening up, I have a question here from Hanak. Can the same connector for Flow and Power Apps be shared with Logic Apps as well? Yeah, so Logic Apps is a connector inside of this, but Flow has, the fact you're using Flow is a little more end user focused. It's the same engine underneath the covers, but they put a new UI on it for your citizen developers. And because of that, they've integrated it tighter with Power Apps than Logic Apps has. Okay, so let me go ahead and start. We'll call this app Chez Brian Waitlist, and I'll call this webinar just so we have a new name on it as well. All right, So when I click on this create here, it's going to create a tablet application to get us started. So this tablet application is going to be blank, nothing there. Now we could create an app through a wizard, and it would create the basic CRUD, the create, read, update, delete, all that would be done for us. Now in our case, we're going to be writing and reading to this one simple table I have here called Checkins, and this Checkins is going to log, hey, when a customer checks in, and when I seat them, and if I call their name and they're not there anymore, I'm considering them abandoned also. So we'll log when that happened as well. So and how large a party is as well. So pretty simple application to start with. Let me go ahead, and this is our basic designer for PowerApps. So we're going to start. Our goal here is to build an application to check people in, and then we'll put some Power BI tiles on it to make it look a little fancier. That won't be the prettiest applications. We're only doing this in a webinar, but you'll get the idea. So let's start by just giving it to get more of an app feel. Let's give it a good name here. And we'll call this just, Shay Brian, Brian, the wait list. And we'll go ahead and wire this up. And we're going to try to make this look a little bit more like an application. So we're going to make this a header in our case. So we'll go home. We'll give it a nice fill color, like a nice dark blue fill color. Oh, that's good. Give it a nice white text. Make it bold. Make it centered. So all the same stuff you do in Word. I'm not going to walk through step by step how I'm doing this part because it's pretty boring in this case. All right, so now we've got our piece, our title now done, and what we're going to do is we're going to have the current wait list on the left here. Go away. The current wait list will be on the left, and there'll be a form on the right here to add new people to the wait list. So to do that in PowerApps, we'll go to Insert and Gallery. And we can create numbers of different types of galleries, but think of galleries basically like a query you're running against your database, and it's going to show a whole bunch of rows on it on a table. So I'm going to create a little gallery here. Now normally we would give better names to these things. I'm calling this gallery 1 for the time being, just because I don't want to give a naming convention, but we do have a naming convention out there in case you're curious that you can kind of find on our blog. All right, so I'm going to kind of line this up, make it a little bit prettier. Whoop, there we go. Make it a little bit prettier here. And notice it's putting some sample data in here. I'm going to make it a little bit wider, about like here. And our Power BI titles can go here, and our new form is going to go here. Now, a few things at once, and wants a data source. Let's go ahead and add a data source. And I've already have one out there. It's at the point to which table I'm going to point to. So I'm going to point to my time card table. And one of the tables I have is called Checkins. So that's simple. I point to my database, point to my Checkins. Now, in this case, I'm using an Azure table, but I could point to on-prem data just like you can in Power BI and in Flow as well. So now I'm pointing to Checkins, and I don't necessarily need all this. I'm just going to put the title and subtitle there. Oop, there we go. Okay. And I want to change the subtitle here. Let me go ahead and edit this. Let's change the subtitle to not say mobile number, but maybe what time they checked in. All right, there we go, check-in time. All right, so there we go. We have our basic piece now done, but it would be nice to know like how many minutes they've been in and those kind of things, how big is their party or whatever. So that's our next step here. Now, if you want this to call the customer, text the customer, I actually have a video on our website, on our YouTube channel about how to text the customer and the table's now ready, or call the customer as well. All right, so a question here from Claudia. Is this a phone application? Does it mean that we're working on tablet? Yes, absolutely, Claudia. So once I build this for tablet, it will basically just will shrink down responsively for a phone as well. So it must be horizontal versus vertical is the only difference. Now I can flip this around and make this solely a phone app if I wanted as well, and it would just stretch it out for tablets also. But it can absolutely be done. Now what you're seeing here is a few things. If I click on the gallery here, and I look at data source, you're seeing us pulling from the check-ins table. Now, if I look at the individual items in here, we're seeing, all right, there we go. It says this customer or this item dot customer. That's saying, hey, I'm pointing to the customer's name, basically, the customer name in this table that you're seeing right here. So the word this item basically just referring to, hey, which column do you care about? Next, I want to go through and specify that I don't want to see the time they checked in. I prefer to see how long they've been waiting now in this case. So let's go ahead and let's add some stuff in here. So in double quotes here, it says text. I want to put party of and I'll say ampersand. Here's just like in Power BI, an ampersand concatenates two fields together. So I'll say this item dot, and there's my party name, party size. Okay, there it is. So that's our party size. And then ampersand again. That's how I concatenate this stuff together. So now you see we have party of 3, party of 8, so on, so on. And then I'll say wait time. All right. Put some spaces in here to kind of clean this up a little bit. And let's go ahead and change this to actually find out how long they've actually been waiting. So just like in T-SQL and just like in Power BI and all that, we'll use a date diff function. And just like in Excel, for example. And in this case, you want to get, let's get that check-in time. There we go, check-in time. And we want to go ahead and compare that to date, the moment right now. And I want to get the number of minutes. So it's going to feel a lot like what we've seen with Power BI. Now, right now, I'm looking at, and I'm going to put minutes in here just so we can see that as well. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We have our basic piece. Now, you're seeing a lot of people here have been waiting for a long time, 1,200 minutes, so over a day now. Well, this is because I haven't filtered this data set yet. I'm seeing all the records, whether they've been seeded or not seeded right now. So when I look at this and I select this guy, you're seeing check-ins. What I want to do ultimately is filter this data down or do the equivalent of a join statement or a where clause in my case inside of this, not a join statement, but where clause. So to do that, they provided a simple command called filter. And this is going to resemble a lot like what you see inside of things like Power BI as well. So I want to filter that data set right here. And notice up top here, it's writing things for me in this case also. So again, this to Denise's question, this data set is stored inside of Azure in my case, but it could be stored on-prem, could be stored in SharePoint, could be stored in hundreds of different places. I don't need a data set at all, actually. I could actually do something called a collection, which is an internal data set to Power BI, to PowerApps only, and it's only available inside that app. So you can do it a number of ways. I chose the SQL Server though, so I can build reports on it also. All right, so good question, Denise. So the question here from Artie about Impala, I'll have to check that in a second. I'm not sure about that, but we'll look at that towards the end of the presentation. All right, so what column do we want to filter on? Well, I have this thing called transaction complete, which tells us that, hey, that I've already sat them. And I'll say I only care about whether transaction complete is equal to false. So that's simply what it is to do a filter on this. Now what's happening is it's actually pushing that filter back to the SQL Server because of what we just said there about being a SQL Server. It's actually turning that into a where clause and only sending us 2 rows back. So there's lots of things we can do around this to kind of make this a prettier app. Like for example, I don't want that little arrow right now. It's been killed. Actually, I'll keep that arrow. I'm going to use that in a second here. But if I want to, I can wrap these rows and kind of stack them side by side. So let's do that by changing the wrap count to 2. Oop, there we go, not 20, 2. Now we're seeing our wait list now on here. We may want to change this arrow to be something else, and I'll do that in a moment here also. But now I need an app that's going to insert into this table to add new pieces into this as well. So to do that, let's simply add a new form. So far we've created our wait list. We have to do some things with this arrow. We'll come back to that in a second here. And then we're going to add a Power BI tag here. And we're going to add our form on the bottom right. So let's go ahead and add our edit form here. So when I do that, my first step, I want to say I'm going to allow this for new records. So I want this to be a new item. I'm going to point to the check-ins table. There we go. And the first thing it's asking here is, well, what do you want to edit here? So I'm going to change this right here to actually point the fields that I want to edit. So as I go through here and I hit add field, it's going to ask me, well, what do you want to do here? Well, all I need is really the customer name. And all I really need is maybe their party size. And I'll leave the phone number out right now. We'll keep it simple right now. And that's all I really need to make my app work. I'll go ahead and ask for the phone number. It's fine. It's not a required field or anything. So when I hit add, we're going to see that now it creates these what you're seeing right here. And I can kind of shuffle this around and make it however I wish. Like for example, here's edit number. I hit the drop down box. Maybe I want that to be a slider instead. Okay, so a slider, left or right kind of slider. So you can kind of change this to drop down boxes or whatever you wish to make that. Now what we're seeing is this is our form. I'm going to drag this to the bottom right as we talked about before. And I'm going to go side by side. There we go. And we can easily say, hey, I don't want to wrap this. I want one column of data here. There we go. So now it's starting to feel a little more like an application now. And we can also, if you wanted to make this feel more like an app, you can also put some kind of color on this, so it kind of feels like a separate section of the app to easily make that work. Now the slider is kind of redonkulous right now. We have 50 people is our kind of starting point. Now if I want to alter this party size, I can go over to hit the little advanced tab here. You notice that it's locked right now. So when you use the wizard like I used there, it locks all the columns until you're actually certain you want to go to advanced mode here. So I'm going to unlock it to allow me to actually play with this field here. And then brought back in the properties page, we're looking at a slider right here. If I pick the slider itself, you'll see that it has a min and max. So somewhere in here is our min and our max. There it is. So our min is 0. Well, that should definitely be more than 0. Should at least have one person at the table. And then our max, let's make that just, hey, if you have more than 12 people, you're going to need to talk to the host, and we'll make an exception for that. So we'll max it out 12, and we can also default that to not 12, but maybe let's make that a default of not 50, but maybe one person. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we have our basic app now ready. There's a few more things we'll have to do around that. We'll have to ultimately put a little button here to actually send this data. And watch how simple this is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and add a button right here. Okay. And I'm not worried about colors here, but I'll put this on the bottom right here. I'll double click on it, give it a better name here. I probably should have saved. Oh, there we go. I'll call this check-in. Now, what happens when somebody clicks on that check-in? Notice right here. It says on select, and this is where all your properties are ultimately hiding right here. And right now when you hit on select, it says false, which means nothing's going to happen when you click on select. So to make something happen now, let's just go ahead and say submit form. And my form name is a terrible name. It's called form 1. That's all I've got right now. So I'll say form 1. I should ideally, of course, rename that. And anytime my rule is if I use an expression like I am here, I'm going to rename it also. I'm going to have some kind of like FRM or some kind of naming convention. Then I want to go ahead and reset the form. So I'll go ahead and say, let me go back to a new form here again. There we go. And I'll just do form 1. I literally hit 3 characters there. I hit a S for submit form, and I hit N, and I hit tab twice. So I hit 4 characters in that case. So it wrote most of the code for me. But now, if I hit the little play button that you're seeing top right here, I could type in a name. Let's see, I've got Artie, and let's give him a party size of 3. I'm not going to put his noble number in there. Hit go, and in a few seconds, we'll see Artie is now waiting. And I also have Hanak, and we'll give him a party size of 8, his big family, and hit submit, and there we go. So we can see now it's also refreshing that these people have been waiting for 29 minutes. Artie's only got 1 minute in, and Hanak has 0 minutes in right now. So an easy way of kind of building an app, right? But now I need to be able to check these people in and remove them from here. So let me show you a few things around that. There's a few options you have. And to check people in, I'll go ahead and just change this little arrow right here. Let's make it just a, let's see here. I think I have a picture here of food. There we go. All right, and I'm going to wire this on select that food to do something now as well. So to do that, I want to do an update to our table. There's a few ways of doing that. Like anything, building an application, there's 100 ways of always doing any kind of thing. So, okay, so we have a question here from Karen. How can I get a different control per field on the form? So when I go back to here to edit the fields, there's a few ways you can do it. If I go to edit the fields, you'll see each of these controls. When I hit the drop-down box, there's an edit text control. But I can also make an allowed value for drop-down box. I can say, hey, this is going to be a multi-text kind of thing. You can make a slider like I did. But there's also a whole slew of controls that you have up top here. It does not be part of the form. You have to kind of do it a different way, which I'm going to show you right now, actually. So in my case, we'll picture this fork here is a custom control that I'm using. So to do that, to actually have this do an update, what we can do is I can do patch. Now the patch command is responsible for basically doing an update or an insert. In my case, it's going to say, hey, do I have this record already here? And the record I want to see is this item. So this, oh, sorry, I need the table first. Sorry, let me go back here. And you can see that right up top here, it's telling us, how do you want to, what source do you want to update? Well, I only have one source, so I'm going to click it, hit comma. What record do you want to do? Well, the record is this item. That's the record that you're actually clicking on right now in the gallery. Then I'll do comma. Now I specify like a set or a list of columns that I want to update. So this is where it gets a little fun. It's not too bad though, code-wise, but this is where your update statement is going to be. Now, if a record's not there, it'll do an insert eventually. You have to tell it a little different way of doing that, but much the same way. So in my case, I want to go ahead and specify that the transaction is complete. I think it's called transaction complete is true. Let me kind of scoot over here a little slow, as you can see. I'll do a comma. So the column name is this transaction complete. The true is the value I'm setting it to. Then I'm going to say, all right, I'm a transaction complete. I also need check-in time. I think it's called check-in time. It's showing me. I'm going to zoom out here so I can kind of see the column names here. I'm going to go over to my SQL server here. It's called complete date time. All right, that's why. Complete date time. I'll make that equal to now. There we go. And I think that's about it. Abandon is going to be false. All right, so actually abandon's already I'll do abandon while I'm here as well. So do comma, abandon, and I have a hardest time spelling abandon. It's like my kryptonite. There we go. Abandon with one, oh, and I missed, all right, all right. Abandon table. Oh, goodness. Let's see. There we go. Abandon with one D. Abandon. You know, when you're preparing for a webinar, you never think that little things like spelling is going to be what nails you on a webinar. And look at that. I'm still misspelling the stinking name abandon. All right. You know what we're going to do? Because I am being an inept speller here. You would never know as an English major, would you, at one point? All right, that's pretty sad, Brian. And let's go ahead and just keep it simple and just drag that over. Oop. Whatever. All right, abandon. Abandon. Well, it is my kryptonite today. Abandon. There we go. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to leave it as is. I don't want to embarrass myself anymore. I've already done a pretty good job embarrassing myself in spelling today. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. So Nick has been kind enough. The problem is I have two different screens right now, and I have and I'm doing live. Abandon. Thank you, Nick. I think it was abandon table. All right. There we go. There we go. All right. It's one of those things you never think, you prepare for these webinars, never think it's going to be a spelling of the word abandon that brings you down, does it? All right. Luckily, it's being recorded, so this is just for posterity's sake. Let's go ahead and check in Hungry Hacker. There we go. So he's now checked in, and he leaves our list now at this point also. Okay, lots more stuff we can do around that, but let's put a bow on it now that I've embarrassed myself on my spelling abilities. So our next step is I want to add a little Power BI element right here. So I've got a Power BI report. Let me go and open it up right here so you guys can see it. I've got a, there we go. Let me bring it over to our window here. So I've got a really simple Power BI report. I'm gonna go ahead and submit over to production. This is what it looks like right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and deploy this. What this is basically looking at right now is, well, what is the average wait time by hour? So I'm a concierge at the desk, and I can see at 8 o'clock, typically, we've got a whole bunch of people waiting here for this time. My average wait time right now is about 14.67 minutes, and my average time before somebody leaves and gives up is about 20 minutes. So we can kind of get some basic analytics on that table. I'm gonna go ahead and submit this out, and then we're gonna use the Power BI element to actually show. We'll put one of these elements, maybe this guy right here, in the report to show how it's changing over time. So let's go ahead and replace this. And then, there we go, replace. That's going to send our new report over. Okay. Come on, Shay Brian. There we go. All right, so we got our new Power BI report is now opening up. There we go. And I'll go ahead and I'll lock in one of these guys here. Let's take this guy once it comes up. Come on. There we go. All right, I'm going to lock in this party size measure here. So I'll go ahead and pin that to my dashboard. There we go, and hit go. Okay, let's jump over to our dashboard. So the check is you want to make sure you're actually looking at this in a dashboard. And go ahead and kill this because we're going to come back to that later. Oh, no, that's all right. We'll leave it there for a time being. I can't quite see the delete button there. So I'm going to use this party size guy and actually put that on a report now. So we'll go back over here again. And oh, there we go. There's our got it. And there is our wait list right here. And under controls, we're going to see, I'm in the insert ribbon, under controls, the very bottom, we'll see Power BI tile. Now, the reason why this is so important is because the charting abilities inside of PowerApps are not very good. You have 3 options here that are available to you, and you have to build this data set live and kind of reconstruct it. And the language for that in particular piece is not very easy. So if you've already got a report like I do in Power BI, what I can do is just say, all right, there's my workspace. Here's the report. Here's the dashboard I care about, Shea Bryan. And here is the element I care about, which is going to be my how about party size one that we have right here. And in a few seconds, it refreshes. I'll go ahead and put this in a better place here. Okay, there we go. Oh, I have recursive logic here. Let me go ahead and edit this again. So I'm an app and looking at an app now. Let me go ahead and fix that real quick. All right. So sorry about that. That's funny. Data. Let's point to different party size one. There we go. Okay, so now we have some Power BI elements inside of this, and it stretches and compresses based on how you wish. You can also tell it to drill through, and if somebody clicks on it, to jump into the actual interaction as well. So you can turn on the ability to interact with this. And if somebody clicks on it, you should jump to the report also. Now, of course, your users, great question here, you'll have to have a license of Power BI to be able to see this, of course. It's going to validate that my account can see this report. If I can't, then won't actually allow me to do that. So great question there as well. All right, so good enough now. We can keep on going deeper into this, but let's go ahead and save this, and let's jump into making our app a little bit better again. Let me save and publish this. So I went over to File and Save, and then my next step after I save this is to publish this. Now, the minute I publish this is then going to be available. I can share this application. It's then going to be available to the phone application also, or tablets, or wherever you wish. So let's do the opposite now. Let's go over to Power BI and put an app inside of Power BI. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Power BI experience itself on the web. Now, you can do it on, there's a few ways of doing it. You can do it from the desktop as well, but there's some limitations around that, and it's more around the custom visual here. So if I go to the desktop, let me go over here. All right, there we go. Let me go to my desktop now. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a custom visual. So I'm going to import from the marketplace, and I'll search for Power BI, PowerApps, excuse me. Now, when I search for that and add that, it's a pretty awesome visual. It's got some issues with sizing it appropriately and all that. So one thing you'll notice that when I click on this and I pick a few fields here, I'll pick some random ones for the time being. Doom, doom, doom. I just want to show the limitations of it. There we go. The limitation is this, that when I'm in the Power BI desktop, I only get the option to choose an existing application. So if you don't have that application already built, it's not going to work. So I have to choose the environment here first of all, pick the environment of where I want to have that app, and then choose it. Which is perfect if I have an application already built, maybe to do things like texting from the application or whatever. But if I want to do some additional things like filtering and all that, then I need to actually do it in the web experience instead. All right, so let me flip over to web experience. Now let me go over to the report. I'm going to go to report here. There we go. Now this is the same report you saw in the desktop experience, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and edit the report, and we're going to do the same steps we just did, but it gives you one additional option, which is pretty snazzy. So again, I'm going to go ahead and add that custom visual, but now on a web page is the only difference. Okay, and I'll search for PowerApps. There we go, and add that bad boy in there. Now this time, the first thing it's going to want you to do is say, what fields do you want to make available to this application? So let's go through and I want party size, I need my mobile number, the customer name, and the check-in dates, or whatever. I'm just going to pick a few fields here. And we'll stop at that. Total wait time, I'll uncheck that one. Okay. Okay, and then abandon. So I'm going to pass a few fields, and now I get an extra option now as well. So I can choose the application, or I can create a brand new application. So again, if you choose the application, make sure you pick your environment. I'm going to pick my environment I'm in right now, and I'm going to hit Create New. All right. So this is going to open up PowerApps again, but I'm going to build a special kind of a Power App now. And it's where it's ultimately where the data set is the data set from that Power BI report. So as I do interactions with it, as I click on a pie chart or whatever, the Power App will also change as well. So let me go ahead and it's taking its sweet time. Now it's going to build the app for me. So as it does this, okay, notice it's actually kind of building the CRUD part of the app for me, the create and the gallery, excuse me. There it goes. All right, I'll skip this now. And you're seeing a gallery that has a list of all the things that we've already seen. So let me start here. Let me go ahead and publish this app out. And we'll call this just app, webinar, whatever. Okay, good enough. And we'll go ahead and give that a nice save here real quick. I think I have some special characters in there. That's probably a bad idea, just in case. The semicolons might cause some issues. I'm going to save that terrible named application out. Now, this is going to give us some special kind of stuff we can do now. All right, so here we go. So now, back in my report, it's now going to load this app up. Now, of course, you need a PowerApps license. Back to Denise's license question here. You will need a report to do this. But now, I need a PowerApps license, excuse me, to do this. And you can resize it how you wish. You can make this a little skinnier vertically or whatever you wish to do to kind of make it fit better. We're going to keep it really simple right now and just leave it alone. I'm going to pick like this time slot, for example. And as I click on these, you'll notice my gallery is also going to change. There it goes. I got that. Who were the customers that were waiting during this time? So then I can actually pick that customer and edit that customer if I change my app to do that accordingly. So you can really build this app to be whatever you wish. Now I'm going to do a few more things with this app. This is a very basic app right now. Of course, it does very little at all, right? So let's make this app actually do something now. So this app right now is just a gallery, basically displaying stuff. So I'm going to start from scratch here. And the reason I'm going to start from scratch is, imagine a scenario. I'm looking at this report, and I want to, oh, that's right, I had that huge party that had to wait an hour. I want to go ahead and add some new data into the report. So I'm essentially going to make my report actionable and make it where I can interact with it. Now, as it stands today, I could make this actionable here and make it where you click on this arrow and you're going to text the customer and apologize, send them a coupon code or whatever. You can do those things by integrating PowerApps into this Power BI report. But in my case, I'm going to make it more of a data entry application. And my goal here is so I can show you a few more things around Power BI as well. So I'm going to go drop in a quick form. All right, I'm going to drop a quick edit form in. Okay, and again, first thing I'll make sure is that the default mode is for new rows. I'm going to hit edit fields. Oh, I got to point to my data source first. Okay, so I'm basically starting from scratch here. I'm going to add a new data source. It recognizes, hey, I already have this thing called time card. Go ahead and add the time card in there. And what table do you want to edit? You've already seen this before, so I'm going to check check-ins. Now, a question we had, can I connect to Cloudera? Let's take a look at it real quick. I'm going to hit new connection, and let's see if we can find a Cloudera one. Okay, I'm not seeing Cloudera in our list here. And you had a question about Impala. Impala is available, but not Cloudera. So that was a question for, oh, he's already left now. So already got upset and left. All right, no problem. Let me go ahead and kill this real quick. Okay, so now we want to edit our fields and make it where we can kind of overwrite our fields. I'm going to add, I'll just add them all right now. So we got a check-in time, check-out time. We have a customer name, a mobile number, a party size, transaction complete. That'd be good. We'll keep it really simple and hit add, and we're not going to do much beyond that. All right, so you've already seen the rest of that. My last step was I need to go ahead and make sure this doesn't wrap like it is right now. So I'll make sure it's only 1 columns. And I need to put a quick submit button. Again, you've already seen this one as well. So I'm going to drop a button in here. I'm not going to make it real pretty or anything. All right. And to make this wire up, I'll go ahead and say on select. We'll say submit form and form 1. Okay, again, I should give it a better name, but right now, one thing that's cool about PowerApps, by the way, though, is if I did give this a better name other than form 1, if I were to go in here and actually say, let's go ahead and double click on this and call it FRM submit manual time, something like that, and hit enter, look what happens to my code around that. So if I check on manual time here, it actually rewrites all the code to have a new name. So refactoring is really, really easy in this case. So now that I've got that, and of course there's some things like maybe I want to default this to today's date and all that, but we'll keep it simple for now. Okay, now I want to go ahead and save this application, but there's one more piece I want to do. Once I hit the submit button, I want to refresh the data set also in Power BI. So this is a special thing that they've added now in February. The semicolon you're seeing here says do this, then do this, then do this. By the way, I forgot to tell you that earlier. I'm sorry about that. So you'll see the word Power BI integration right here. If I start typing Power, it will actually say, oh, do you want to refresh the data set? So if I pick this and do an open close parenthesis like that, oh, it already did it for me actually. There we go. Once I've done that, it will now refresh the data set for me. So let's go ahead and submit this application. Go ahead and save this off. There we go. And I'm going to publish the latest version also. Why not? By publishing it basically makes it available to other customers. So in my case, I could be looking at version 1 developing, but people actually using the app, we see version 1, well, I'm working on version 3 or 4 or so on. Back in my Power App though, once I refresh this, let me go ahead and save this. There we go. And do a quick refresh. What's going to happen now is we'll now see our new party size application. There we go, hopefully coming in, there it is. All right, oh, that's actually an old one. Let me go into the actual report again. Hopefully it refreshes here in a second. It'll be right here. It's going to connect to the app, and there it is. All right, it's a little less pretty version of it. So now that we've done that, and if I were to select a time here, like I'll pick today's date at, okay, today's date, and pop that into my source, my destination, and we'll say we came in at 2 o'clock and we left around 15 o'clock. We were a party of 33 people. We got tired of waiting, so we abandoned the table, and this could be the manager's opportunity to override that. Now watch what happens when I hit manual select. When I hit manual time here, it's going to then send that row to the database, but also it's going to refresh that report, and now I've got 33 people that came in at 6 o'clock now on here. So kind of a handy way of doing that ultimately. Now the reason why I'm not getting the data here is I didn't put reset form at the end of that. So that's why I'm not seeing that in my case. I just want to show you the record here. So Power BI interactions.refresh refreshes our data set after we're done our deed, as you see right here. So really easy way of doing that. And now you see all these gauges have also changed as well. Let's see here. Okay, so question here from Mon. To change the data, a user must have read, write, and delete access table, correct? Yeah, absolutely. So you'll need to make sure that whatever user you're connecting with, whether it be whether it Windows authentication or whether it be SQL authentication, which is probably what you're going to use, that it has the rights for data reader, data writer, and potentially writing for store procedures also if you want to go that route as well. A question we get asked oftentimes in Power Apps is how do I do things like store procedures? At this time, store procedures are only available when you interact with them through flow. So if you want to fire a store procedure off, you have to kick off a flow, and there's easy integration there as well. You'll see when I have Power Apps open, there's actually a flow button inside of here. So you can call that flow, and all it does is fire the store procedure off. So it can be done. It's just there's an item out there to actually fix that problem, but they have not addressed that yet. Another question is how do we do like really complex joins? You notice I'm just checking the table here And my previous app, there it is, right here. In my previous app, I was just checking the check-ins table, right? But what if I want to go through and merge it with a whole bunch of other tables and do joins? Well, there is a command called Lookup that basically does those joins for you. But if they get very complex, or if they're in the gallery like right here, you probably want to do a view instead and point to the view. At this point, they went for simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. So I want to do these check-ins, for example, and make it really, really simple for our users. Okay, so just a little gotcha there as well. We have a question here. It's how do I retrieve the registration? Okay, Andy, could you elaborate there? There's a registration for this webinar, please. Oh, okay, that's probably something else there. Do I need, you can mention her question about users. Well, good. So this is, want to show you the basic side of this. Now, there's other things we can do to make this a little prettier on the app side also. Like we may want to say how many people are waiting up top. And again, we could do things with this, add more visuals and all that, or we can do things simply with group by statements inside of PowerApps. So on this guy you're seeing right here, if I double click on it, right now I'm looking at the size, I want to change the text of actually what is inside of this. So I go back over to text, there we go, and I want to put how many people are waiting. I can put a little space, of course, here and say %. What we can do is I want to count how many people are in this gallery down below. So you'll see a one called row count, or count rows, excuse me, count rows. All right, there we go. It's going to ask us what data set we want to count. We can count the table. I want to count just the gallery because I've already done my filters and all those kind of things. And I should have, there we go, but I can just do this as well. And when I do that, you notice it says 19. That's because it has a wrong answer right here, right? So the alternative is to count how many people are actually in the gallery right now. So if I do count, we can say, do I have a gallery down here? Count gallery 1? Yes, I do. Okay. So we can say gallery 1 dot all items. So when we do that and close it, it will actually give me an error right now. Okay, so it's oh, I know my problem. Okay, anyways, we'll go back to that later, a little bit later. So it's actually giving me an error because it's something else that I've done earlier. So I'll skip that for the time being. I apologize. But you can use the count command and count and row counts to count how many rows in your data set and also look at those kind of things as well. If you want to remove somebody, for example, if I say, all right, I just want to get rid of them, I made a mistake, and there's a simple command for that as well. So I'm going to select inside my gallery and just do a quick button for that. I'll just do a trash can or a delete. Come on. There it goes. There it goes. Sometimes you'll notice that Power BI gets, or PowerApps gets a little bit hinky, if that's a word that we're seeing right now. All right, there we go. I'm kind of shrink that down again. And when somebody selects this, I just want to remove the record. This is essentially going to issue I need to say remove from which data source. I'm going to remove the collection, that table, and this item. There we go. So now when I hit the X, it's going to kill Yo Mama. There we go. And the record never existed in our database at this point. So there's lots of things like that. The patch command will do updates. The submit form will do inserts like we did here. And then remove will do our deletes also. All right. Well, as you saw today, integrating Power Apps and Power BI is actually pretty simple. We have some really cool apps we've built around that. This is a simple app in this case, but we have the typical case you'll see for Power BI integration into Power Apps, the way around, excuse me, is for right back into the database. Let me open up my slide deck one more time, and we're gonna wrap it up. Okay, I have a few questions here that were asked. Question here from input data into Power BI can be archived in a Power App with Power Apps in Power BI. I'm not able to elaborate on that question. I'm sorry about that. I don't quite understand there. So typically these recordings are available the next day, but also if you're curious, we also have a whole slew of them on our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/Pragmatic Works, you'll see all of our archives there, but you'll also see a Power Apps playlist right here. So I do about one every week or so. So the Learn Power Apps playlist right here has about 37 videos on learning Power Apps. So starting from the beginners and going all the way deeper into more elaborate ones also. We have a whole bunch of classes on Power Apps if you want to learn more about it, and the whole Power Platform as a whole. We have almost 14 classes on Power BI. but we also can build apps for you. So if you have a backlog of apps that you want built or Power BI reports you want built, we can do that for you as well. Just feel free to email me after this. My email address is on the screen, and I can kind of direct you to somebody who can help you on that side also. So we'll leave a few minutes for questions. Looks like we have a few in our pipeline here. Answer the question about the demo. I assume each time something is done, it hits the database. Yeah, so that's a great question from Bon here. I assume each time something is done, it hits the database. Are the best practice in collections for, yes. So like any consultant, it depends. So what Bon is pointing to is when I hit the delete key here, for example, on this guy, it actually runs a delete statement against the database and removes a record. When I do updates, it does all singleton kind of updates here. An option we have also is to localize this and make what's called a collection. And with that collection, we can operate really efficiently and then batch the records up whenever it's time. This is also the technique you're going to do for being offline. PowerApps has the ability to go offline and submit that in a batch when you come online again also. There's some, this is a very small application doing some singleton updates, not a big deal in this case, but some gotchas you want to watch out for. So inside of this, if I were to do a lookup, for example, where I say, well, I have Artie's first name, I also want to find out what safety certifications he has, or how many times I want to go bounce this up against our loyalty system to find out how many times he's come to our restaurant, and is he a gold customer versus a silver customer, those kind of things. If you do a lookup here, a lookup is basically a join, and if I do that inside of here, it will basically do a row by row lookup. So for every row in my gallery, it's going to bounce that against the database. So that should be avoided at all costs. If you want to do things like lookups in a gallery, at that point it makes sense to do a view to get around that shortcoming in PowerApps. So that's a great question there from Vaughn. Wow, we have a whole bunch of questions here. We have a question here from, okay, when will PowerApps be out of preview? Oh, PowerApps is not, the PowerApps custom visual. The PowerApps is not in preview, first of all, but PowerApps custom visual is in preview. The only weirdness I ever see in the PowerApps custom visual, and I've been using it for over a year in production, is, there we go, let me kind of open up. The only weirdness I see is, here we go, oh, I keep on opening the wrong screen. There we go, that's why I didn't recognize it. Is that the sizing is a little odd, unusual sometimes. So you'll have to go in here and kind of really fiddle the size to make it perfect. It doesn't read that properly sometimes and make it a proper size application for you. Now in PowerApps, you can go to the file and app settings to set the size and orientation of the applications. This is where you go and say, I want to scale it. What kind of, you want to be a landscape application or a portrait application. So if I make it a landscaping application, it's going to work on bigger devices also. And you can also change the, make it a different aspect ratios inside of here also. So that's one of the great question here from Radu. All right, we have another one here from, does the online class get updated? Yes, Aman, we update a class about every 3 months. And we have a new class coming out next week, actually this week, excuse me. It's the PowerApps in a Day. And it is a free class we'll be offering as well. So stay tuned for that free class also. It's App in a Day, and it's the equivalent of Dashboard in a Day, but for PowerApps. So it's really targeted like a 6-7 hour kind of lab for you to work on. And that's good to get you started on PowerApps environment. All right, a client wants to input data in the Power BI application and wants to see the real-time visuals. Hope this can be achieved in PowerApps integration. Yes, absolutely. Question from Amul, Mr. Sharma. It can be. So that was the trick on that one to make sure you can see it in real time was just make sure is Power BI integration.refresh first of all, but also you have to be using direct query also. So direct query is a type of Power BI report where it's going to query the database live versus caching all that data and refreshing it on demand. So that's one of the 2 gotchas you have to do there to make sure that that you have that. Okay, it looks like we're about out of time now. What are the differences between the PowerApps licenses? Okay, great question there. This is from Scott Crowell. So there's 2 licenses for PowerApps, and it really comes down to, let me open up PowerApps website real quick. There's the 2 licenses, actually 3 licenses you really care about. If you have Office 365, chances are you already have a PowerApps license right now. The app I built there was called a Canvas application. and that is part of the Office 365 license. If you already have that, you already have PowerApps. Now, the more complex one, Plan 1 or Plan 2. So if you have Plan 1, which is basically about $7 a month, chances are you're not paying that even. So Plan 1 is for all the premium connectors. If you want to go to Salesforce, or if you want to go to these more elaborate data sources that that I'm not showed in my presentation today. Everything I did today is part of Plan 1. Can be done part of Plan 1. That's the premium connector. So for Plan 2, it's something that requires called a model-driven application. This is really for Dynamics users that want to have very simple applications to be built. So that's all part of our. I have a whole webinar, I have a whole video just on these licenses and how they're different and what the apps look like. So Scott, please go to our YouTube channel. You'll find about a 6 or 7 minute video that will walk you through the different plans and which one may apply to you. But that's a short answer. I know it's a very, very short answer there. All right, I think we'll have a question from Hanak here. Is the actual PowerApps, a lot of power words here, not the data source, but the user account created and okay, stored this, or is it stored the user? Okay, Hanak, shoot me an email. I know you know my email address. So shoot me an email, and you have a few questions here. So please feel free to shoot me, and I'll be happy to respond to that also. Because I'm out of time now, unfortunately, looks like that was a pretty good question. I don't want to lose track of it. So my email address is on the screen again here. It's bknight@pragmaticworks.com. And again, we'd love to go to our training site. You'll find a whole bunch more on there. We have about 3 PowerApps classes out right now. We have more coming. And we have loads of Power BI classes, and we'd love to build an app for you as well. So shoot me an email if you have any questions on those too. I'd love to talk to you more about that, and have a great day. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. And like Brian said, it will be recorded, so you guys will receive an email tomorrow with the recording link. And as he also stated, all of our archived webinars and present ones are on YouTube. So please check that out. If you guys have any questions until then, please feel free to reach out to Brian or myself. Thanks so much for joining, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.